And the update on Arizona. Wendy Rogers post on Twitter today. The numbers don't match in Arizona. I'm sorry, that was yesterday, the 13th. Today is the 14th. But how many is still to be determined. And this is probably going to be the most challenged to audit it, litigate it in probably U.S. history or world history. So we got to make sure that it's 100% accurate on any of the findings that we find, and we go from there. And then today, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors has secured a new election equipment to replace what the Arizona Senate subpoenaed and turned over to the uncertified contractors, which that part's not true. They're certified. And there are details on that go into a contract that they assigned, and they got actually more machines from Dominion. Let me show you in a moment here. And here is the article from Maricopa County, and they're saying that they secured new tabulation equipment for upcoming elections. With the November 2021 elections fast approaching, they felt they needed to get new election equipment to replace what the Arizona Senate subpoenaed and turned over. So let's get down in the article here. Under the amended contract with Dominion Voting Systems, the county will acquire 385 new precinct tabulators and 9 new central counters, as well as the election management hardware required to run them. And that increases the total cost of the contract to $6.1 million to $9 million. And they didn't have to do that. We want paper. Election equipment is considered critical infrastructure by the Department of Homeland Security, which recently stated that the subpoenaed machines must never be used again. And they're frustrated by the fact that they thought they were perfectly good machines, which passed all their accuracy tests from the time they first got them. They didn't, that wasn't done right. There's some holes, there's some cracks in that theory. So now the county is under contract with Dominion through December 31st, 2022. An amended contract with new equipment was necessary for the county to fulfill its statutory responsibilities and conduct elections in 2021 and 2022. And that's a bunch of crap. Yeah, okay. And Wendy Rogers posts on Twitter, "We don't want these machines, paper only." Yeah. Governor Abbott says 58 hypocrite Texas Democrat runaways will be arrested when they return to Austin after jetting to D.C. on a 100K chartered private jet to stop vote on GOP's new state voting bills. The Texas Democrats fled their state on private jets in order to prevent a series of new restrictive voting bills from becoming law. At least 58 Democratic members of the State House of Representatives left Austin to fly to Washington, D.C. on 2 private jets that cost $100,000 to charter. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, on Monday said the 58 will be arrested when they return to Texas. He said their behavior was un-Texan, accusing them of running from a fight and describing them as quitters. Their departure means Texas House doesn't have a quorum of 2/3 of the lawmakers present and can't hold votes. Jen Psaki said some White House officials may meet the Texas Democrats in D.C. and call new voting laws the worst challenge to our democracy since the Civil War. And Kamala Harris said in Detroit on Monday that fighting for the right to vote is as American as apple pie. The 58 House Democrats are seen on Monday night staging a news conference on the tarmac at Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C. They flew to D.C. from Austin on 2 private jets. And here they are on the plane with their case of beer. And here is a short video from the governor of Texas.
Behind and just leaving the field. That is not the way that Texans do things. And you captured it perfectly, and that is they're leaving and abandoning their right to vote. And I tell you what is crazy. But, Laura, this is not over because, as was pointed out in that prelude, we have special sessions that last 30 days. And the governor calls them, and I will continue calling special session after special session because overtime is going to continue until they step up to vote. But, Laura, I have to point this out. The thesis that they are operating under is completely false because what the Texas law doesn't hinder anybody's ability to vote. In fact, interestingly, what Texas is seeking to do is to add additional hours to vote. Texas has 12 days of early voting, and the hours of which will be expanded, and we will ensure that hours are expanded on election day also, so their entire thesis is completely wrong. And compare early voting in Texas with early voting that we have in Delaware. Texas has 12 days of early voting. Delaware has 0 days of early voting. Why am I picking on Delaware? Because that is where the president himself voted in the last election. And if anybody wants to talk about voter suppression, they should be talking about Delaware, not Texas.
Yeah. Well, one Texas state congresswoman is going to demand something of Biden and the Democrats do what they should do when she actually gets face-to-face with them here in D.C. Watch.
For me, it's going to be more so of an ask for him to push as hard as he can. This filibuster we have to do away with it. Because once again, it's Republicans being allowed to be obstructionists.
Governor, they fled Texas to mommy and daddy in D.C., and the Republicans are obstructionists. Please explain that for our viewers tonight.
One word: hypocrisy. They're using a filibuster to flee the state of Texas to plead with the president to do away with the filibuster in Washington, D.C. That is the example of hypocrisy on its face. And that's one reason why they're losing the arguments with regard to voting on this issue and other issues in the state of Texas.
Texas House votes to send law enforcement to arrest Democrats who fled state to block GOP from passing voting laws. The chamber approved asking law enforcement to arrest Democrats who walked around to regain a quorum. ABC 13 reporter Nat Nair said Democrats also face other penalties like losing leadership roles. And in this article, Texas House votes to send law enforcement to arrest the Democrats after they returned to Texas who fled state to block GOP voting laws.
Mr. Speakers, I move that the Sergeant at Arms or officers appointed by him send for all absentees who in attendance is not excused for the purpose of securing and maintaining their absence under warrant of arrest if necessary.
Members, you heard the motion, 600 ballots. Express the record vote, plug in the bill. All members voting. There will be 76 hours and 4 days. The motion is adopted. Members, the Sergeant at Arms and any officers appointed by him are directed to send for all absentees whose attendance is not excused for the purpose of securing and maintaining their attendance under warrant of arrest if necessary. Members, under the rules, while the House is under a call, any member who wishes to leave the hall must have a written permission of the Speaker. The House. Mr. General, for what purpose? Parliamentary inquiry. Please state your inquiry.
And I'm up here because I don't plan to be a sitting person in that legislature. I'm not going to be a sitting.
No sitting duck.
I'm not going to be a hostage.
And now today, as I look up what's new with the Democrats who fled, this is the crap that's being reported on MSN. Look at this stuff. It's ridiculous. Tucker Carlson says Texas lawmakers who fled the state are committing acts of insurrection. By leaving Texas, they, in other words, violated their sworn duty to represent their voters, and they committed what amounted to an act of, yes, insurrection. Why? So that Texas lawmakers couldn't pass laws against voter fraud. Laws, by the way, that voters in Texas have said overwhelmingly they want passed. That's democracy, but they're not getting it. She's saying like, I'm leaving on a jet plane. Jenna quits the GOP. And she posts on Twitter, it's true. In Jenna's Twitter post, neither McDaniel or the RNC have responded to the National Fires Inquiry about what happened to the Republican Party's share of the $200 million or more it raised using President Trump's fight for election integrity in its advertising messages. And this is the video where she reveals her message. And here is her video message.
To build his opinion. But what the RNC is not entitled to is sabotaging Trump while also fundraising off of Trump and telling you, the American people, that they're fighting for him when they're really not. What happened to the millions raised by the RNC in November and December of 2020? The Trump team never saw a dime of that help. The RNC is lying to you. Ronna McDaniel is also not entitled to allow the RNC to lie about this story when asked. An RNC spokesperson responded to Business Insider with the typical talking point BS. Oh, you can't trust Michael Wolff. This is fake news. It's false. They know damn well it's true, but they don't want to take the political hit, so they are willing to lie to you. Ronna McDaniel agreed in November 2020 that Reimer's position on the post-election fight was not in line with what the RNC promised the president, so she promised to fire him. She saw the emails. But then that didn't happen. That was her first lie. And now she's lying again. Then when I called her out on it, this happened. I tweeted this from my Twitter account and called her out on this. Then when I said, Ronna, I guess she's unable to respond, she ended up blocking me. The base that loves and supports Donald Trump deserves to know the truth. President Trump always stands for the truth and has told me to tell the truth about the post-election events. I'm happy to. This matters because the Republican Party no longer represents our values. So at what point are we going to stand up and just say no? Well, today is that day. If not now, over something this grossly unethical, then when? When are we going to stand up? The Republican Party under Mitch McConnell, Ronna McDaniel, Kevin McCarthy, and all of those other power-grubbing rhinos do not champion the values that make America great. They have compromised on so much to the point that Ronna actually tweeted support for Pride Month. That's not a conservative party anymore. All of them, including Ronna McDaniel, should resign now. Until they do, as of today, I am resigning from the party. I am changing my voter registration and I'm no longer a Republican until the party decides that it wants to be conservative again. Even if I stand alone for the truth, I will stand for the truth. A compromised, corrupted majority is not a majority worth being a part of. If we genuinely want to create a more perfect union, we have to stand up for our principles against the corrupted machine of self-serving politicians in Washington. I will support candidates, regardless of party, who stand up for the values of genuine conservatism. I will not vote for candidates who compromise on life, the church, the LGBT agenda, the traditional family, Marxism, critical race theory, big government, or any other fundamental issue that is the core of our republic and essential to liberty and justice for all. We are proud to be Americans because we stood for these principles at our founding. Self-evident truth that all men are created equal and endowed with certain unalienable rights. So it's up to us conservatives. It is up to us conservatives. If the RNC wants to win our vote for their candidates or get our financial support, they have to earn it. President Trump earned our support, and he didn't even need the party. The truth is that they need us far more than we need them, and it's time that we act like it. Demand Republican leadership start telling the truth, supporting the America First agenda, voting conservative, and not compromising on the values that we most cherish.
Trump-appointed judge releases the protester, says he did not engage in violent behavior. The U.S. District Judge Timothy Kelly, a Trump appointee, on Tuesday released a January 6 protester from jail, pending his trial because he did not engage in violent behavior. Douglas Jensen, 41, was seen on video inside the Capitol on January 6 wearing a t-shirt bearing the letter in reference to the online group. Jensen is one of the many supporters who has been sitting in jail for the past 6 months for a non-violent offense. The DOJ is purposely slow-walking all the January 6 cases and denying Trump supporters their constitutional right to a speedy trial. So the judge agreed to release the Iowa man and put him on house arrest with an ankle monitor. He's also barred from using the internet. He said his behavior is deeply concerning, but he is not accused of damaging any property or violently assaulting anyone. Today is July 14th, and go with kindness and love.